Hello guys, it's Christian from Emotions and Wine. Welcome back or welcome if you're new. Today we talk about Garnacha, Grenache, or also Cannonau di Sardegna. Did you know that? And by the way, since that Cannonau di Sardegna from last discoveries of DNA from 3,000 plus years ago, traces, that was the first, because the theory was always that in Aragon, in Spain, near Catalonia, there was the birthplace, and then from there the Aragonese reign brought it to South France and Sardinia. But eventually now seems the Sardinia was the first. So interesting, there are always new discoveries, certainties are limited. Anyway, it's the same grape, of course expressing a bit differently. And today, as rarely we did, we have the same grape from two different countries. So the first is from Sardinia, so Cannonau di Sardegna from Jankara winery, 22 vintage, 15.5 alcohol. They are both 22, so same vintage, same alcohol, 15.5 also this one. This is from Bodegas Borsao, Tres Picos Garnacha, so same alcohol, same vintage. So also the latitude is quite similar because central northern part of Sardinia and Aragon are almost the same, and also the altitude. So we have many similarities, but the wines most probably will be quite different. I opened several hours ago. I don't do next day tasting, but I wanted them to breathe. Spain should be warmer anyway, even if it's similar latitude in general, and altitude also. That can contribute. Then there is also something in the way making that make them a bit different, of course. So, Garnacha is a particular grape because it's early budding, late ripening, like many others we found, but is light color, low tannins, low acidity. So these are all handicaps for the aging potential and also for the maturation. And on the negative, there is that it's developing a lot of alcohol. So need hot place, dry, Mediterranean. Majority is there, but there is also presence in the New World. But of course, majority is Spain, a bit overall nowadays, South France, Sardinia, a bit in South Italy, and the rest is New World. So it needs specific conditions. For all these reasons, usually it's blended to give more color, more structure, because the alcohol is one thing, but then you need the other elements, especially acidity and tannin, for the longevity and the structure of the wine. But in recent years, as you know, if you follow, I became more and more interested in this grape because if you work it well, you can make outstanding and very elegant wines that can even age quite well. So it's a matter of many things. Even 100% nowadays, more and more. We saw the South Rhône link below. There was one of the two wines that was the big majority Garnacha with a bit of Syrah, and also that elegance and finesse really, and good balance of everything, even a decent acidity. So you can do, if you work well, old vines, low yields, and proper vinification, all matters. So in the top versions, it is really a bit Pinot Noirish, starting from the color, but also in the style, of course, the characteristics are different. Must be at high altitudes, as I hinted they are, because in that way you have more acidity in particular, and also slightly less alcohol, even if here we see is 15.5, which is the classic even in South Rhône. So that's it, but at least the acidity and also the profile of aromas and flavor. So it's very specific. You need to have the proper location. So Aragon is still considered the house in Spain, is the main grape there, while in Sardinia is all over the island, but there are some best locations. So you have different styles of some more bold, especially those lower altitudes. But later, more and more, even in Sardinia, they are focusing on the proper conditions, proper terroir. So the Sardinian is first because of the winemaking and the characteristics you will understand. So first of all, Jankara, we had already the Vermentino di Gallura before was cork, unfortunately. This is a really interesting winery. They are originally from Sardinia, but they were business couple, and they came back to build this less than 20 years ago. They are in Vermentino, in Gallura, so in the north eastern part, but for the reds, they had a vineyard in the middle of the island, 750 meters on granite soil. So this is really something special. Mostly Cannonau, but they have something else. This is the regular Cannonau, age only 1 year in cask. So there is no detail about the vinification, but the assumption is that the maceration is not too long. So the first thing, looking at the colors, they are ruby both, but the the second is a bit more intense. Not too much, but more. So already here a slight difference. And the Spanish is macerated about 3 weeks, which nowadays is less and less, especially for these kind of wines. So my assumption is that this one is shorter. The vines are only 18 years old. I think they planted when they started the winery. And they age 1 year in barrique and tonneau French. First thing, red fruits, which is quite a classic. Minerality, very pronounced. On the granite is quite normal. It's very elegant as start, showing everything delicately. Touch of ethereal. My assumption is that they don't use new oak or a small percentage because the spice is very little so far. Just a touch of spiciness. And then there is something reminding Mediterranean scrap, but all very delicate so far, not impactful, so very refined wine. This one specifically is 98% Cannonau and 2% Alicante, because by DOC need to be 85% minimum. Majority do almost 100%, but in that case it's 2% of Alicante, which is almost irrelevant at that small quantity. Very pleasant palate. Good depth. Red fruit, touch of spicy. The mineral is well pronounced, and the acidity is quite good. So this is the point of the elevation. The natural acidity of the grape is lower, but in these cases, at that kind of altitude, nights are very cool, so they help a lot to retain acidity. And staying there, so good length, considering relatively young vines, is well done, very fine, and with a good complexity. Not so impactful. Yeah, and the alcohol is very integrated. You don't know that is that high. You cannot feel it. It's in great balance already. Even if it's relatively young, it's quite harmonic already. Drinking window for sure. No need super meats. Even some cold cuts could work. Cheeses. So very nice start. This one is about 25 euros in my location. In Italy is about 20, so it's a reasonable price for a nice wine. It's not the cheapest if you think about link below the gem of Sardinia. For me, Carignano de Sulcis, we had older, a bit more complex and more interesting wines, and the prices were this level. So a bit more. This winery is not cheap, that I know, because I know it for some time. But for sure, the Carignano is the best value for money. Cannonau depends, but tend to be a bit more expensive. It's more famous, more popular. There is more clone production. So, Bodegas Borsao, big, sort of cooperative. I didn't understand from the website exactly because the name is not the classic cooperative, but since they cooperate many farmers at least. It's big. is one of the references in Aragon, in Borja near Zaragoza. So that is the home of the grape. As said, nowadays is present in all the regions almost in Spain, but that is the main. And there is still good value for money like this one. So Tres Picos is their flagship, the most relevant wine in the regular range, let's say. Quite famous, well rated also. That's why I picked it. So I said the color a bit more intense, and there are several differences that we'll see now. And also the nose is quite different. So they are in this Campo de Borja denomination, which is quite extended around the area, and there is Moncayo mountains, which go very high, and there the vineyards go up to 700 meters, which is the case of this one, 600, 700, so just little less than the other one. But they have also other vineyards lower in the area. But in general, the altitude is quite good. It's north of Spain, so near Catalonia. They have a heritage of old vines that is very relevant. This one is from 35 to 60, so that is a lot. It's very important. Digging, the soil is varies according to the location, but for the Tres Picos, which is there at 600-700 meters, is all clay limestone with a touch of silt. It's very dry, I think drier than Sardinia, and hot but cool in the nighttime, so the same concept. So this is far from the sea, while Sardinia, even if it's in the middle, is still not that far. So many similar points. So the old vines, what makes it different, this is short cask, but they do 3 weeks maceration as I hinted. Just 6 months of French barrique, so the same style. I assume there is more new from the first impressions, because okay, here you have darker fruit. It's not that red. It's also some black berries, but you have much more pronounced spiciness, even if it's shorter. So that's why I think they have at least a good percentage of new oak, while the other is much less influencing. And the low maceration make it a bit richer, extracting more. Also here, anyway, the acidity should be relevant since the altitude. So here you have much more. It's more impactful, it's elegant, but not very fine and subtle like the other. Touch of leather also. Here no Mediterranean scrubs, so here is focused on the dark fruit, some spiciness, pepper also, and the leather, less mineral also we can say, which I expected the opposite, because digging down the roots should extract more from the rocks, even if there is a topsoil or clay, but the other is more mineral. Has a bit more. Here, in a way, you can say you feel a bit more the alcohol, probably also because of the extraction. The perception is also that the acidity is lower than the other, but can be also all the style. Then there is also the harvest time that is also important, because you can retain a bit more acidity or a bit less. But in general, we can say this is more of finesse and delicacy. The Spanish is a bit richer, which is a bit a classic in Spain anyway. Some more spices coming out. Other dark fruit also. So complexity is more than the other, that for sure. So even staying on the same grape in similar conditions then is a matter of many factors, as you see. I recommend to those who like less powerful wines and more particular, Garnacha 100% to try. For sure, if you are more a Pinot Noir Nebbiolo guy, better this kind of expressions. So some South Rhône or Cannonau in Sardinia. If you want a bit more power, the Spanish are more suitable, because in general, Spanish wines tend to be, even if nowadays they are turning a bit, but they still have a bit more bold wines than French and Italian. Yeah, it's a bit drier on the palate than the other. So touch more tannin, good length. This has more potential of aging. Also the maceration matters, and then the old vines, of course, that change a lot of things. So this is more in every mean. More potential is just beginning the drinking window. This really needs some food, but the tannin is gentle anyway. Just here you note it a bit more, and is a bit more powerful. Length, I would say pretty much the same, but this is drying up the palate more. The yield also is very low, also because of the age of the vines and the dry climate. So for my style, I would make it with a bit shorter maceration to make it a bit more refined, because all the rest is perfect, on spot on, just a bit richer for my taste. But many prefer this style, I know. So two different really expressions. Last round. Now it's turning a bit strawberry. Yeah, more intense red fruits. But the minerality always remarking that is surprised also considering the vines are not that aged. But still, yes, limited in the complexity. So more classy, we can say, more delicate. Yeah, didn't change much more. Spice is still very little. That is a good sign of the use of oak, but very pleasant, yeah. And depth, yeah, this is more drinkable. Very pleasant. Yeah, this says a lot. Still changing a bit more. So much more complexity, richness, even by all the factors. Price is very good because I paid here 20 euros. In Spain is 16, maybe something like that. There is no production is big. That helps. Many Spanish wine bodegas are very big, so that helps to keep the prices reasonable. Yeah, something tertiary also starting. Besides more spicy and still the dark fruit. Bit more mineral also now smell. So very nice, very nice. I would say touch of earthy starting, just the beginning. Yeah, bit the tannin is more evident, drying up more. This is great with food. Hedgy potential here is quite good. As I hinted before, that was a bit a handicap in the 100% Grenache because of all the negatives of the grape characteristics. But this one can age well. So the old vines, the low yields, the way making all help to make interesting wines that can even age well. This one, of course, will not age that long, but I think quite a while. I know they make a Riserva, which probably is a step up, but even in their case. So talking about this level, the aging potential on the Spanish is much more. So interesting wines. I hope you are interested to discover more about these grapes and try them even from different countries. It's even always interesting to try the same grape from different places. And like, subscribe, comment, please. Help us to grow. See you next time and salute.